Oh, wow. Now, did ya? You know, I was actually just at this place called Micro Center. It's kind of like
nice.
it's kind of like a big like tech store. They have like a bunch of different like PC parts if you're into building your own computer. They also sell obviously computers, laptops, tablets, monitors, pretty much anything you could think of relating to computers or like other pieces of technology. They have it all there. And it's
Yeah,
really
there's one.
it's
Yeah,
really
there's one near
awesome.
me. Yeah, there's one near me, and I was hoping to go check it out, but I haven't had a chance to stop by because I definitely want to like rebuild, like not like rebuild my computer, but I'm thinking I definitely need like a new motherboard, maybe like a new graphics card. I definitely want to buy like a one of those what are they called uh solid state drives or whatever.
Oh,
Like that's like
absolutely. Yeah, those
the
things are
problem.
incredible.
Yeah, the problem is like right now, especially right now, graphics cards are like again like just like everything else in the world, they're super high priced because of like people just like literally people just buying them and then selling them on the secondary market. So it's kind of crazy.
That is absolutely correct, and I don't condone it, but my friend who came with us did actually buy a graphics card to do just that thing. He actually got the
Son of a
last
gun.
one.
Son of a gun.
But yeah, that place is super cool. And they even have like a little bit of like stuff for just video games or like if you want to build like
Yeah.
one of those like I I think it's called a Raspberry Pi, but it's almost like just a basically a big emulation machine for like retro arcade stuff as well as just all the like retro consoles. And they even
Yeah.
have like little buttons for like the joysticks and like the actual buttons on the arcade cabinet. It's really cool. Like if you could ever think of any sort of weird like tech hobby or again something PC related, you can look up Micro Center. And that's like a brand name. Like it's you can find those like it's a chain. There's not just like one Micro
Oh
Center.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely want to go check it out one day. Maybe at the very least, maybe get a new motherboard and the solid state drive. I heard they're not too bad. It's mainly the graphics cards that are hard to come by.
And it's funny because like when we went there, I do want to upgrade my PC at some point, but it's very like not a high priority for me right now. But yeah, just like looking through everything, like I was looking at the monitors, I'm like, oh, I do want to eventually get new monitors because mine are like a few years old at this point. And then I was looking at
Yeah,
headsets, and I'm like, oh, I would love to get a new pair of headphones because like honestly, the ones I've been using, I've had since like the PlayStation 4 came out. Like they've just
yeah.
last that long, and they're nice. Like this is all like frivolous upgrades. Like I don't really need to do any of this stuff. Everything's working properly. It's not like, oh crap, one ear of my headphones doesn't work or this thing happens or that thing happens. So it's all just like me pondering, being like, huh, like getting an idea of what I'm going to upgrade to in the future.
No, I hear you. Yeah, for me, it's like like my headset. Leo ate my last one, so I've been using my little earbuds, but they're not very comfortable. So then now I'm using I like this. I honestly I got it Five Below. It's a really
Okay.
cheap. It's a really cheap headset, but for $5, I'm like, yeah, whatever.
I,
I really don't care.
I was just going to ask you what brand you got because I've been like shopping around. I'm like, I should look up different like
It's
good headphones, but yeah.
I'm sure the word cheap is somewhere in this brand because it's just like like cheapo-matic headphones. Like, sounds good to me.
But with that being said, I'll talk a little bit more about my week before we actually get into the regular podcast mumbo jumbo.
Alrighty.
So here at the Game Bro Corey estate, we have entered Quarantine Life Part 3, which I like to call Stay at Home Crusaders. Or I guess it's
Still
just
staying at home.
Crusader singular as of me. Well, don't worry, Mike, because tomorrow will be my first day back to my regular work life.
Oh, no. Well, that's good.
But yeah, over the past few days, well, let me start at the beginning where last week, I forget if I talked about this, but my one friend at work, he actually was sent home because...
He tested positive, but I think I'm already mentioning that.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
And I let my company know, and I was feeling a little weird. I was having like a little bit of a stuffy nose, and I got like a really bad headache like over the weekend. And I just let them know, I'm like, hey, I don't know what this is, but I guess to be the safest, I should probably go get a test. And they're like, oh yeah, absolutely. Since you were in contact with him, we're gonna make you go get a test and quarantine for a little bit. Luckily, all my tests were negative. I was very worried that I actually did contract the virus and it was going to like cause all sorts of like problems and just like doing things here and there. But luckily, everything was all okay. Although I must have had some other sort of virus because I still had like a pretty bad like runny nose over the past few days. And I did get another like really bad headache. I thought it was just my allergies, and maybe it was just really extreme allergies, but I was taking an allergy relief medication. So I have no idea. Maybe it was just something I ate. Who knows? Like, you can never really tell with your body, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much been me for like almost exactly a week, because it was like last Tuesday is when I began my quarantine, and here we are now where, like I said, I'm all clear to go back to work tomorrow, so that'll be my first day back after a week. I'm feeling good. I'm a little tired right now. I pretty much have been out with my friend and Megan since like around like 10 or 11, and I've been in like a car for most of that. So I've been like sleeping in the car because like, you know, we would just talk for a little bit, then we'd just be driving. So I'm a little groggy right now, so don't mind me.
I will mind, Corey.
Well, you got to put up with me for about 2 hours, so.
Why did I give you the phone call? Why did I call you on Discord? Why, oh why?
But yes, besides quarantine life and, not feeling too great, on Saturday, I did get to go to my mother's house. She actually just opened her pool, and that was really nice because, it's been quite hot over the past few days here in Pennsylvania. And that was just a great time, just hanging out with my family, swimming in her pool. Her pool was a little cold. It was probably about like 60 degrees or something like that. But it was, once you got used to it, it was really nice. And, you know, they have like a bunch of like inflatable things they like to put in the pool. So I was like hanging out on the tube. I actually didn't have a drink, but I should have had a drink in the pool. You know, that would have completed the scene. But we also did have the good old American cuisine, some hot dogs and hamburgers. Hot off the grill, chef's kiss. You can't beat that on a summer day with the pool.
That does sound pretty good right now.
Exactly, a little mustard on the hot dog. Oh, it's great.
Yeah. And then you just submerge it in ketchup. Oh yeah.
I'm not a ketchup guy. I don't really eat a lot of ketchup.
Actually, no, I'm just joking. I only really like mustard on mine as well. I just remember there's like a meme where someone like did that. It's like this, like I think it's like Americans do this, and it was like a guy like had a hot dog, he put some mustard on it, and then he just picked it up, and he just submerged it in a big like vat of ketchup. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I like ketchup, but not on my hot dogs, and I don't think I would do that.
Some reason that just made me think of the bit from the Andy Milonakis show where he like eats ketchup packets with like a fork and knife. And that's just making me like cringe internally, like, oh god, I hate that so much.
That's so funny.
I don't even really like. I used to really detest ketchup when I was younger, but now as an adult, I've had ketchup, and I'm like, this is fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with ketchup, but just any time where there's a thing where people are like, I'm gonna eat like a lot of just a condiment, like people who just like eat mayonnaise with a spoon. I'm like, like that just makes me uncomfortable.
See, that's how I am, because like there's people who say they don't like mayonnaise, and like I get it, mayonnaise is not for everybody. But like I like mayonnaise on like my sandwiches. Exactly. But if, God forbid you ever give me like a spoonful of mayonnaise, I'll vomit. Like that's just it's weird how like I find mayonnaise. I like mayonnaise, but not by itself. That's like the weird thing, you know.
And there's those hoity-toities over in the Euros who they dip their fries in mayonnaise. What's up with that?
You know what's funny? I know my mother does that too. Like whenever we would like, she would take us out to like Chick-fil-A or whatever.
Sure. She
would always get mayonnaise, and that like because she doesn't like ketchup with her French fries, so she uses mayonnaise. And I've tried it. It's not terrible, but I just feel like it's just not for me. And that's all I'll say.
I also feel like mayonnaise in different countries, I think, is like different than like American mayonnaise. Because like if you ever been to like a Japanese restaurant, they give you like a mayo type sauce, but it's more like sweet and not as like thick. I'm not sure if the mayonnaise in like Europe is different. It might be like I'm not 100% sure, but maybe they use like different ingredients or something.
To any of our European listeners and viewers, please tell us, what does your mayonnaise taste like?
Oi, governor, I dip my crisps in the mayo.
Oh, my fish and chips taste pretty darn good, especially with some warm temperature beer.
After I listen to the Level With Me podcast, I'm going to go hang out with the Queen and have some tea and biscuits.
Oh my gosh, I'm missing the best game. It's the Silly Nannies versus the... I don't know, whatever other team we have.
I love watching them kick the football around.
Oh my gosh, it's cricket. My favorite game.
You're a wizard, Harry. Insect. I'm a what?
Alright, I think we just lost some subscribers from that. Oh, no. Oh, I say, they can't be talking about us like that.
This is also making me think of, I've been watching, I think I talked about it last week, Bert the Conqueror. It's like a show of this comedian. He goes to theme parks and he will go on rides and do these crazy stunts. He actually went to Universal Studios Florida, and he was in like the Harry Potter themed area. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. But he like goes up to one of the like just tourists walking around, and he's like, let's do horrible like European accents. And I think like Bert like started off doing like a, oi crikey, throw shrimp on the Barbie, and the guy starts cracking up, and Bert's like, that's not the right accent, right?
That's funny.
Anywho, American cuisine, hot dogs and hamburger. Get that fish and chips out of here. What are we doing? I need a meat patty or a meat tube. Ugh.
I need that. I just need a slab of cow, ground up into a circle. Extra lard, please.
And a Diet Coke.
Yeah. So that way I lose weight.
And then last but not least...
That's how it works.
that is the American diet right there to a T. And then last but not least, real quick, I want to give a shout out to a very nice viewer that I had on my Twitch stream, Game Bro Corey. He stops by pretty often. I believe his handle is Larry the Daredevil in my Twitch chat. But he wanted me to actually go and watch his like YouTube channel, and he like does little videos. I think he wants to start getting into more vlogs. His YouTube channel is Larry Ramos. He's a young vlogger. He's trying to make it. Just go watch his video. Maybe leave a nice little comment or give him a sub. He would really appreciate that.
You know what? I'll do that right now. What was that again? Larry the what? Larry the cable guy?
No, it's just Larry Ramos, his YouTube channel. I'll probably leave it in the comment section if people, or in the description of the podcast if people want to actually just go look it up. But it was nice. Like, he wanted me to watch like his vlog, and I did it live on my Twitch, and it was fun. And I hope he keeps making content. God bless him. He's doing good content. But that being said, that's all I got. You wanna start talking about the car troubles?
Oh yes. So I'll start off because I'll get it over and done with. So as I mentioned, like last week, I had some car trouble not car trouble. I know you had car trouble. My thing was that I was getting my car inspection, and the mechanics were kind of like, in my opinion, just screwing me over. Like they failed my car for the emission test, which again, I'm not saying I'm mad because they failed me for the test. It was more so when they quoted me, okay, here's what you need to get the car running again, and the prices were obscene. So they charged me for, like I mentioned before, I'm already down $400 for this solenoid valve and the installation of the valve. And then I had to go back for the emission test. And then the other part of the quote was for all the safety stuff, and that was like around $1,400 for everything, including like new filters, a new light for the back of my license plate, 2 new rear tires. And I'm not saying that those didn't need to be replaced. It's more so just a price. So for all last week, I went to AutoZone and Sam's Club. Sam's Club was mainly just for the tires and check my battery. So I got all that taken care of at a fraction of what I was going to pay or the fraction of what the garage was going to charge me. And then went to AutoZone and bought all the other parts, and I just replaced it myself. So luckily, I saved myself a lot of money, and so I was actually going to go back there today. I took off from work today because I had an eye doctor appointment, and I was hoping to drop my car off at the garage and finish it on my inspection test. And for the whole week, they have no one to inspect my car. So I'm like, that's just, I was mad. I got that yesterday. Like I got like an email and a phone call. I'm like, oh yeah, we can't do it. I'm like, all right, well. So luckily there was a real nice garage in the area that I think I'm probably going to go to from now on, because that's where Amanda and her family take their car. And then they seem nice. and they were fast too. Like within like 2 hours after dropping my car off, I got like a text message, and they take pictures of everything that they inspect.
Oh wow!
So that way,
that's
yeah.
awesome.
So that way, it's not like, oh, by the way, we think your brakes. Like they say, yeah, here's a picture of your brakes, like your brake pads. Here's what we measured, and it passes. And by the way, it was awesome. So they're fast. They sent pictures of everything that they checked. However, they did say I need new shocks, and they said that that did fail me for the safety test. So I was like, oh crap, I didn't expect this. Like, because the other garage didn't notice that. But they said, yeah, these have to be replaced to pass the test, and it's $800. So I'm still spending a lot of money, and I'm a little bit, honestly, a little bit butthurt about that. So that sucks.
Pardon me for interrupting your story.
No, it's fine.
I totally agree with you and think that's kind of weird because I also had a similar situation where I took my car to get inspected. I usually just go to my dealership. But luckily I've learned that now if I need to actually get like some sort of major repair to my vehicle, I'll probably go elsewhere because I'll save a little bit more money. But when I was there, they passed me on like almost everything. And then I recently had to go to a different mechanic because I actually do have to get something replaced. I need to get my 2 front axles replaced. And when I was at this other mechanic, they also had to change all my tires because I ran over a nail. And I should have tried to get the tire repaired earlier, but they weren't able to repair the tire, so I had to replace one. And I hear that's best to replace all of them, and they also recommended that. So I'm like, why not? Let's just do it. But anyways, they were looking at my car as well after I got the tires replaced, and I told them about the axles, and they're like, oh yeah, we also found like this stuff that might need to get replaced soon, and the mechanic also suggested this, and bada 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 bada. And it's like, I just think they all like it's pretty much, I guess, at the end of the day, the mechanic who's making the call. Like, he'll look at your stuff, and different mechanic to mechanic will maybe just all have their own opinion on these parts look okay to me. But then mechanic B might be like, actually, these parts, I think they need to be replaced within the next week or two, you know?
No, I agree. I feel like sometimes it might be subjective, you know?
But anyways, that sucks. I'm right there in the hole with you. I think at the end of the day, I'm going to be spending it was about $300 to replace all my tires, and then the axle.
Wait, what? $300 to replace all your tires?
Yeah, they were
That's a steal.
90 something each. Oh, you think that was bad? Well, crap.
No, it's amazing. That's amazing.
Okay,
that's incredible. Tires are expensive. How are they only charging $97 a tire?
I don't know, but I'm
going to your dealer or to that garage. Oh my god!
It was Jack Williams, I think, which is just again, that's a chain.
Unless your tires are made of like fiberglass, I don't understand how you're getting them that cheap.
But yeah, I was like, I'm always worried now because I've told stories in the past to Megan about like how I've got these been like, I don't know, should I replace this? And then I'll talk to her and I'll talk to other friends and be like, no, Corey, you didn't need to do that. You got ripped off. They just wanted to sell you on new stuff. So the second I went to this place and they're like, okay, it's $93 a tire, I called 5 different people. I'm like, hey, is this a good deal? Should I do this? And everyone's like, yeah, that's pretty good. So I'm glad to also hear. Really, yes.
No, that's really good. Yeah.
Okay, that makes me feel better. All right, cool. I'll let you know within a week or two if they also just shatter immediately.
Yeah.
So far, so good though. I've drove on them.
They're just waiting. Okay, any day now, Corey's gonna be back. Those tires we gave him are shit.
They're just I don't know, watermelons, and they just painted them black. You know? Like the rind, obviously not all the watermelon.
They just have holes in them. Just stick this part on here on the axle. Make sure the lug nuts are made of crackers.
Just get paper mache and put more stuff around his old tires, and then spray paint it black. He'll never know. And they literally could do that. They're right. Yeah. I wouldn't know. Yeah. I feel like a child every time I enter the mechanic shop. I'm like, oh, what is this bolt lock?
Okay, whatever you say, Mr. Mechanic, sir.
Just stick me in the corner with all the toys. I'll be there.
I'll be there. Just tell me how much I owe you. Oh, Lord.
Okay, other than the car troubles or whatever, you need these parts to be the safest, sir. That's why we want you to pay us $800. But besides the car things, do you got anything else to add to your week, or should we get right to it?
Unfortunately, yeah, I don't have really much to say. It's been a busy week. So let's start this thing.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Level With Me podcast, episode 97. I am one of your hosts, Game Bro Corey. I hope you're all having a wonderful week. We're hitting these summer months. It's starting to get nice outside. Get outside and listen to the Level With Me podcast while you're maybe going on a bike ride. Maybe you're canoeing or kayaking. Maybe you're on a boat fishing, you know. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get into that. I don't know. Get outside. It's nice out there.
Kayaking.
I am joined by my co-host, Mike, a.k.a. The Collector's Vault. How you doing, Mike?
Doing good, Corey. I'm a little bit poor right now for my car troubles, but I'm doing all right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Level With Me. Enough about car talk. Let's talk about video games and movies and
yes.
maybe some shiny cardboard. I don't know.
The video game news of the week. Well, it could just be geeky, nerdy news. You know, we cover a lot of stuff here on Level With Me. Sometimes we mainly focus on video games, but sometimes we'll talk about movies. We'll talk about other, like, pop culture things going on in the world. And
yes.
I'm glad you mentioned money and shiny cardboard, because I saw this happen a few nights ago, and I'm just like, we're talking about this on Level With Me. It is not flying by the radar. Logan Paul, the acclaimed, wore a shiny Charizard Pokemon card as jewelry to his latest boxing match. Logan Paul wore a shiny Charizard Pokemon card around his neck as he entered the ring of his exhibition fight against Floyd Mayweather Jr. on Sunday night. The YouTuber headed to his hotly anticipated exhibition fight in Florida ready for battle as he made his way to the ring sporting a rare Charizard Pokemon card around his neck like a prized medallion. Kotaku notes that the card is actually a first edition Gem Mint 10 graded Charizard that has significantly increased in value since Paul acquired it for $150,000. That's $150,000. Insane. And rightfully so. Literally, this is just where we are in the world. That, like, back in the day when rappers or boxers, whoever, athletes would wear these gems and this, like, bling bling around their neck, the chains with the big things hanging there. Like, this is the same thing, if not worth more.
In some cases, yeah.
This is wild. I can't believe we're living in this future. Not to mention,
I do want to comment on this.
It's so ridiculous just seeing literally a piece. It's in like the grading case, like the Charizard. It's just wild. I kind of love it though. I kind of love it.
Yeah, I kind of do too. The funny thing is, like, so last year, during when Pokemon especially was going through a huge hype thing, and Logan Paul was kind of like part of that because he was like getting involved with buying boxes and opening the boxes on his channel. I honestly didn't realize this, but this is not only a graded 10 Charizard, but for those who have to understand, this is a BGS 10 Charizard. See, there's multiple grading companies. PSA and BGS, or Beckett Grading Services, are the most popular. And while there are a significant amount of PSA 10 Charizards, first edition, again, like, they're still very, very hard to come by. The BGS 10 is to get a BGS 10 anything is incredibly difficult because they have a much stricter they have a more strict grading standard, I guess. So to get a 10 in BGS is like 10 times harder than getting a PSA 10, if that makes any sense. It's still incredibly hard to get a PSA 10, but then to get a BGS 10 is even harder.
I actually didn't.
Now,
go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, all I was going to say was, before this, Gary from Pawn Stars, I'm sure people have seen that episode of Pawn Stars when Gary Haas came in, or Haas, I don't know how to pronounce his name. He actually was the only person to own the only 2 BGS 10 first edition Charizards in the world. There were only 2 in the world, and he owned them both. So when I heard this, I thought, because I wasn't really following the whole Logan Paul thing, I was kind of just keeping up with it, but I thought, because Gary became like friends with Logan Paul and everything, again, you can go watch the videos on YouTube, because he bought a Charizard from Gary.
Oh, wow.
A PSA 10 one. That was the one I thought he bought for $150,000. Now, people are telling me that when he opened up his box of first edition Pokemon, he did pull a Charizard. What people are telling me is that he sent that in the BGS and it came back at 10. So now he is now in possession of the one of 3 in the world BGS 10 Charizards, first edition from the original.
Yeah,
so that's pretty nuts.
That
is so it may not be the same. Yeah, it really is incredible. Like it's not the same as getting a diamond grafted into your head, but it's it's definitely that is definitely a treasure he had wrapped around his neck. I don't know if he's doing this just for more publicity and to pump up the Pokemon prices, because there actually has been a significant dip in Pokemon recently. So I'm not upset about that. I think it's great because it gives people a better chance to buy stuff, but I don't think this dip's gonna last forever, especially if Logan Paul is walking around at his fight with with his boxing matches wearing his Charizard. Like, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So, somehow, a little drop of sweat just gets in there and just ruins it.
Well, then BGS gave him a faulty case.
Yeah, that'd be a controversy. Do you think that the decline in the Pokemon cards has anything to do with how like Target and Walmart has stopped selling them, maybe making the scalpers lose a little bit of interest in actually trying to get those?
I don't know. I think the dip started to happen before the whole Target Walmart thing. So if anything, I figured with them doing it, it was going to make prices even tougher. But that's more for modern stuff. Like, I mean, even like the vintage Pokemon is starting to dip a little bit.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like first edition Charizards. Like right now, it's funny. I was checking out right now. Like PSA 10s aren't going to drop really. Like if they drop, it's like insignificant. So, but apparently a PSA 9 Charizard first edition, they're still around they were like $90,000.
Wow.
Like last year, but now they're probably like in the 30,000s, I think, or 40,000s.
Okay.
Still a lot of money, but that's a huge dip. Even the 8s are just right now are reaching like only $15,000. I think this is, again, and 7s I think are going to be even cheaper. So like
that's crazy.
Yeah, and I use Charizard as the benchmark because it's like what? Yeah, but anyway. But again, anybody who listens to us and they're also collectors, I think it's going to be a great opportunity to pick up vintage Pokemon again before there's another skyrocket. We'll see.
No, I think that's cool to talk about, and that was that was an interesting point. I didn't know about that. I'm sure there's other people listening who also didn't know about that.
Yeah. One quick thing. I'm sorry to answer your one question, like why there's a dip. I can't explain that. I think it's just like there was a whole bunch of hype, and I think the hype's just dying down.
Okay.
So yeah, I can't explain why it's happening right now, but I think again, people might think, oh no, Pokemon's dying. Like no, it's not dying. It's just a dip. It's a significant dip, and I think it's going to be a great chance to pick some stuff up. So I'll be waiting in the corner, watching these card prices drop and drop and drop. And make my move.
People are going back to work. They're like, "What are we doing with all these Pokemon cards? Like, we don't what." Also, I don't mean to call out my Walmart, but I totally bought some Pokemon cards from my local Walmart. So, did they really even ban them?
I think it was only Target that properly banned them. I think Walmart still has them.
Oh, okay.
So go to your local Walmart, people.
But yeah, I did want to just add about what you were saying earlier. Paul estimated the value of the card at a press conference after the fight, and this is his quote. It's a BGS 10 Charizard first edition. It's one of 3 in the world. It is my prized possession. Ever since I got this graded at 10, the momentum in my life has been crazy. It's my good luck charm. I mean, I'd have to agree with him. It's pretty nutty pull.
That is pretty nutty. And here's the funny thing, and this is just me being like a Pokemon nerd. But like I mentioned, BGS, their grade is like an average of the subgrades, which are the corners, the edges, the surface, and the centering. I'm pretty sure both of Gary's BGS 10 Charizards, they're all 10. All the subgrades are 10s, but there's a 9.5 on the centerings. Logan Paul's is all 10s, but a 9.5 on the edges. So that means his card is perfectly centered to be by BGS standards, which is really tough to do.
Wow.
And it's interesting that that's where he got the 9.5 on the edges. So I don't know if that's because when he was opening the packs, was he not being careful when he was holding the Charizard? Like, God, maybe he could have Because this being just mention this, there is such a thing for BGS. If you have all 4 subgrades are a 10, it is a perfect 10, and you get a special black label.
Whoa.
By BGS. They are very hard to do, especially with the older stuff. It is almost impossible. So that does not exist yet. A perfect 10 black label first edition Charizard. If you own that, I'm going to say it right now. If someone ever were to grade that and it comes back a black label BGS 10, that's $1 million. I'm going to call it right now. It's worth $1 million if that ever happens.
Yeah, that's a few Bitcoins here or there.
Yeah, a couple. I would trade my Charizard for a Bitcoin.
That is, it is kind of crazy to think about like how expensive those. And I do think they'll eventually like keep going up, you know, as time goes on, because they are like nostalgic relics that they don't necessarily make anymore. They're, you know, kind of unique collectible items.
Oh, absolutely.
I was gonna ask you, do you think like time could have caused just the edges to be worn, like? Even though these were all like obviously sealed in some sort of packages, like do you think like just because of how old they are, like something in the materials that they use just might have caused the edges to just get like naturally worn away? Because these things are what, like 20 years old?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, again, like these are all cars. Anything can happen. It could also just be like a factory error, like just maybe it was miscut. You know, like that's typically the problem with centering. Like centering's not your fault. That's just how the car was cut. So. The edges, technically, maybe they were just not cut properly when they were cutting the card out, so then the edges were a little bit sloppy. Like, you know, who knows? It could be all sorts of things.
Speaking of a factory error, let's transition right into our next topic here.
Ooh, I'm getting hungry now for some McDonald's.
An Among Us shaped chicken McNugget just sold for nearly $100,000.
Man, you know how many Charizards you can buy with that? Oh my god. Didn't this happen before where there was like a french fry shaped... this is like a while ago, where there was like a french fry from McDonald's shaped like Abraham Lincoln or something? And it sold for like some crazy amount of money?
I pulled this story. I read that headline, and I've seen it before because this is from a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Just having to read it out loud internally really hurt me. That just damaged me, just reading that sentence.
I'll tell you what, I want to go to McDonald's right now and just start buying chicken nuggets until I find one that looks like an Among Us character.
Look, this one looks like Mario. Who cares? This one looks
actually, like... if you did get that, like, oh look, it's shaped like a fire flower, you probably could sell it for like some money. Because people buy dumb things like that.
After JPGs or JPEGs and trading cards. Oh my god, excuse me. It seems we may have a new entrant in 2021's list of unexpectedly huge at auction items. The humble McNugget. Case in point, last night, a nugget shaped quite like a character from Among Us sold at an auction for $99,997 USD. Garnering 184 bids on eBay, the nugget, which was listed under the title McDonald's Among Us shaped nugget from BTS meal, finally sold for almost $100,000 despite starting at 99 cents opening price on May 28th.
What? Oh my god. What am I doing with my life? I'm in the wrong business. I should be in the chicken McNugget business.
I have so many questions. Like, do they want to eat it? Do they just want to keep it and be like, look, it looks like the astronaut from Among Us? Like, what? Who is buying that? What do they gain from buying this? I just, my brain is mush right now. I can't.
They clearly are trying to hang it up in their hallway at their house as like art. Like, look at this. And people are probably thinking like, oh wow, how much you pay for that? And then when they hear the number, they just leave the house and be like, yeah, we're not friends anymore.
All this just leads to is companies just secretly making these weird shaped items just to make these viral things. Because, you know, obviously, like, you even just made the joke, oh, I'm hungry for some McDonald's right now. Like, this has made, I would say, at least, like, maybe 1,000 people be like, oh, I'm going to go to McDonald's. I actually would love some McNuggets right now.
Maybe McDonald's bought it themselves just so that way they can get the hype.
Right? Exactly. Also, quickly assessing this McNugget, it's clearly, you know, you do get that McNugget that has that one little corner that's kind of like a little tumor, a little finger sticking out. it literally was just an error where like 2 of those got on there in the shape somehow. Like maybe they almost like mushed together opposite. You guys know what I'm talking about. We've all had McNuggets
Lord.
here. There's like 3 McNugget cannon shapes. Okay.
I don't want to live on this. I don't want to live on this planet anymore.
Well, it's okay. We're going to get away from overpriced cardboard and JPEGs and apparently chicken McNuggets, and we're going to move into video games, the place we all know and love, and nothing bad ever happens.
All right, good, because I was getting a little depressed.
And what could quite possibly be the most exciting era for video games is actually coming upon us quite rapidly here. It's next week, E3 2021. It's about to happen very, very soon. And the full schedule for E3 2021 has been revealed. Let me skim through this IGN article to get you the fat latest news here. After a pre-show at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. UK on June 12th, we'll have the Ubisoft Forward conference and as well as news from Gearbox Entertainment. Okay, so that's June 12th. What day is that? Is that Saturday? So I guess that's when E3 technically starts. On Sunday, June 13th, the pre-show starts at 8:45 a.m. Pacific, 11:45 a.m. Eastern, and 4:45 p.m. UK, ahead of Microsoft and Bethesda's joint showcase, which kicks off at 10 p.m. Pacific. So that's like about an hour after the pre-show. I believe all these pre-shows are on IGN. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of different pre-shows on all the different like major gaming platforms, as well as, probably your favorite like influencer out there. Who knows? Maybe if I'm free, I wouldn't even mind like live streaming the press conferences because that's a lot of fun. So yeah, Microsoft's will be on Sunday. Microsoft and Bethesda's, as well as a special presentation from Square Enix and the PC Gaming Show. And there'll also be something about Warner Brother games, and they mentioned here Back for Blood being a big game from them, as well as obviously like the Batman games. I believe NetherRealm Studios is involved with them, so maybe if they're making a new Injustice or something like that. So that's a lot of good like big events happening on that day, which is good because obviously during the week it's hard to keep up with watching these live streams because we're at work. On Monday, June 14th, the pre-show will start at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, and 4 p.m. European. And this will include an indie developer press conference that I was unaware of. And there will be like a bunch of other like little things here and there. Take-Two, Razer, they'll have a little show, as well as Capcom. Capcom probably have some bangers to announce. And then, and then last but not least, on Tuesday, June 15th, there will be the Nintendo Direct for E3 2021. Nintendo always loves to wait for the very end, kind of like what we do here at Level With Me podcast.
Exactly.
And they will have their Direct, which, I mean, we can just talk about that story since we're here already. Nintendo has announced its E3 2021 Direct. So it will be 40 minutes, and it'll be on June 15th at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, and 5 p.m. British or European time. And then after that, they will, of course, do their 3 hours of gameplay at the Nintendo Treehouse. They'll showcase whatever they're going to be showing off here. Hopefully a lot of good or new Nintendo goodness. That was a mouthful, but we got through it all. E3. The Super Bowl of video games, as I always call it.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I'm very excited. What's like, just run down some, like, things you would love to see at the Nintendo E3 Direct.
Like, just name them?
Yeah, just like, you can name it. Throw out a few.
I mean, some of them are pretty obvious. Like, I definitely want to see I definitely want a Breath of the Wild. Like something about Breath of the Wild 2. I want to see some information, maybe a potential release date. Like, holiday 2021. Like, I don't know, something like that.
I could see that. Not the release date. I feel like that probably will come out next year.
Yeah. Well, at the very least, just something like a teaser trailer. Well, no, not a teaser. We already had a teaser trailer. Gameplay, maybe just something. Just any information at all about it,
I would love them to do what they did for like the Spike Video Game Awards or the Video Game Awards, whatever, where they had like that nice little like trailer showing off like what original Breath of the Wild was, and that was like early before they actually announced the release date and it was going to be on the Switch and whatnot. Something like that. Like just showing off like what the game is, like how it's different from the original Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe they can just explain like, oh, like here's what we're doing since it's supposedly taking place in the same map. Like I assume they're going to make some changes to it. So it's like, what are you? I want to know what is the team at Nintendo going to do to make the game replayable in a way, Because I get it, it's a new game, but if they're using the exact same, like they're saying it's the same map, so I'm pretty sure they're just taking like the map of Hyrule that we have and changing a few things. But like, what are those changes? What is different about? Yeah, like as you said, what is different about Breath of the Wild 2 compared to the first one?
A lot of people were making some speculations that maybe because in that trailer they showed like Zelda being right there with Link, kind of exploring the dungeons, there could be some sort of co-op element. I would actually love that. I think that could be really interesting. Because they haven't really done that besides, like, they did that back in the day. Was it on the minute? Or no, it's the Four Swords Adventure, that, like, co-op Wind Waker cel-shaded art style kind of thing that was on Game Boy, and you could play it on, like, a GameCube. Then they did that 3DS game. What was that one called? Triforce Heroes or something like that?
I want to... Wait... I think so.
Do you remember what I'm talking about? It was, again, like Wind Waker style, and I remember, like, it was a red, green, and blue Link.
Oh, no, that's the Four Swords Adventure?
No, this was on the 3DS. It came out not that long ago, like a few years ago.
Maybe it was Triforce Heroes. I forget.
And, like, the Links would get, like, different suits, and that was kind of the gimmick. Like, they would have different powers depending on what kind of suits they put on. It was almost like Mario or something. It was weird. But I think that would be cool. I mean, I'm back to the E3 Direct. I'm going to throw out an obvious one. I want to know information about the Switch Pro or the Switch 2, whatever it's called.
Yes, that too, definitely. I want to see any information on that. I feel like this is a great time for them to announce it if they have anything.
Absolutely, especially with, Nintendo does like to march to the beat of their own drums, but they can kind of be alongside what Sony and Microsoft did last year with the Xbox Series X and S and the PS5, They can kind of like push out their new console, which isn't necessarily going to be anything new, in my opinion.
No, but it's still, yeah. And at this point, I'm fine with that.
Exactly, because I love my Nintendo Switch. If they did tell me for another like 2 or 3 years, like we're just gonna keep putting new games on that, I'd be like, absolutely, I'm fine with that. Like I'm never a man. We literally did this question last week, but I always prefer gameplay over like the graphics,
I totally agree. Totally agree with that.
You got any more things you're excited to see from the Direct?
I guess
just wild speculations. Go nuts.
The mythical Retro Studios game that I think we're never going to get, because the one that not Metroid Prime 4. I believe there's a rumor out there that there was a game that they were working on before that, but I'm starting to think that was probably scrapped.
What?
But that being said, Metroid Prime 4, at this point, I just want to see something. Just give us something. Anything. What? Also, there's a big rumor about a Metroid game coming out at this holiday, which I'm pretty sure is not Prime 4, like, not by a long shot. But if it's a 2D game, like a 2D game for the Switch, I would love that. I really don't want it to be a remake. I mean, we already had Samus Returns. That was great. And I don't want a remake of Fusion. I don't want a remake of Super Metroid. I would like a new game. If they want to do a new game and do a remake, sure, I'm cool with that. But yeah, so I just want some Metroid news. I'm craving some Metroid news.
I think it would be a no-brainer if they made like a 2D Metroidvania type game, and then like I feel like it could be a cool way to like integrate some moments where you do like go into first person. They could probably
do something like how they did it in Other M. Like Other M was like a third person game, and it had like moments where you can go into first person mode, and it was cool. I think they could definitely do that. I guess some similar would be like in a Metal Gear Solid. I want to say Metal Gear Solid 2, and I think the remake, the Twin Snakes. I think that game is like third person and everything, but I think there were times where you could go into first person mode.
Interesting.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I think there was. Sorry, I'm getting all these messages on Facebook. But anyway, yeah, I think they could do something. Like, I just imagine games like Samus Returns, but with obviously with just like like more like better visuals that the Switch can produce. Like imagine like visuals like Ori and the Blind Forest, but just Metroid. Like oh my gosh, I would die for that. I would kill for something like that.
That would actually be really cool. Maybe what they would even do, like mentioning something like that, is, you know, Nintendo is a little bit more loose with their IPs nowadays. We did a year or two ago get that Cadence of Hyrule, which was made by the studio who made Crypt of the Necrodancer. Like, maybe they would do something like that again, where they actually let another team make, like, a retro-style Metroid game, while they'd be like, okay, and legit, we are working on Prime 4, wink, wink.
Well, I mean, I think right now, Mercury Steam, who made Samus Returns, like, I think they said, like, there was a rumor that they got, like, a deal with Nintendo that they would work on the next 2D Metroid game. So it's like, I want to see what they can do. Like, don't do it, like, again, Returns was great, but make a new game with the Switch's hardware. I think it'd be amazing. But a man can dream.
Speaking of dreams, I'm just gonna throw it out there. I would love to see Nintendo like go back to one of their old IPs and actually put a proper new installment on the Switch. I'm mainly looking at you, F-Zero. There's been a lot of talk about that on Twitter recently. People being like, why hasn't this come back up? And then we talked about that story a few months ago where Nintendo was like, well, it's not dead. We just haven't had a good idea. Where it's like, no, shut up. You can make a new F-Zero. You made new Mario Kart and new Smash Brothers. And I hate to say it, guys, but generally the gameplay in those don't change that much.
Exactly.
I would love...
like, it's not hard to make a racing game.
Right.
F-Zero, sure, you might be. It's not and I'll say this right now: F-Zero is not Mario Kart. You know,
absolutely not.
So it's gonna take some effort to make the game, but like to make it with the fast paced action. But just do it. Like obviously there aren't that many people who say, "Oh, I'm a diehard F-Zero fan," but I'm sure they're out there. But I do believe if they were to reintroduce like that old IP back into the modern age, people would go nuts for it. They really would.
Absolutely.
Star Fox is another one. I think that's a series that, after the poor reception of Star Fox Zero, which I actually completely agree was not that impressive of a game, like people will be so happy for that. This is my thing. I wanted to make a new Star Fox game, but with the Star Fox Assault. I think it was Assault or Command for the GameCube.
Assault.
I think it was a Star Fox Assault. I went with that gameplay, where there is still like the shooting in space and everything, but then you can also be on the ground with like a gun. Like
I think that'd be
so much fun.
I agree.
Yeah.
There's just a handful of games. I think there's like a rumor going around that they might reveal like a new Kirby game and a new Donkey Kong game. But again, those are just rumors right now.
A Donkey Kong game would be cool, because I do enjoy my Donkey Kong games.
I would say, though, personally, that's my most like anticipated event of all E3. I love Nintendo news, and I guarantee, pardon my French, but they're going to show off the last two Smash DLC characters, which I'm very excited to see who they pick.
That's right, I forgot about that too, yeah.
Maybe we'll also get some more gameplay from Pokemon Legends Arceus. That looks really cool. Yeah. I'm excited about that one.
Yes, indeed.
Maybe Super Mario Odyssey 2. We know they're working on it.
I would love an Odyssey 2 as well. Oh, man. Odyssey was very good.
Speaking of Mario-style games, a little bit of a twist here. Team Asobi officially announced as PlayStation Studio reveals new logo. Team Asobi has officially announced itself as the newest internal development studio within the PlayStation Studios family. This news comes nearly 4 months after Sony Interactive Entertainment announced that PlayStation Studios Japan studio will be reorganized and, quote, recentered around Team Asobi, the team best known for Astrobot Rescue Mission for PSVR and Astro's Playroom on PlayStation 5. This is exciting news to me because, again, both those games I mentioned, Astrobot Rescue Mission and Astro's Playroom, I never got a chance to play either of them, but from what I understand, it is just a very charming, like, 3D platformer with a lot of influence from games like Banjo-Kazooie Super Mario 64 and, pretty much every 3D Mario platformer at this point. This is good news. I'm excited to hear this. Considering Astrobot Rescue Mission, I would say it was a decent game, but from what I understand, it wasn't that long. Astro's Playroom, is almost like a tech demo on the PS5. It's free with every console, and it is a game. Like, there are multiple levels, but again, it's not like a very like long experience. But again, both of these games, for being like somewhat short, the quality is amazing. People tell me, or from what I've heard, the like graphics and visual style of all the games are incredible, as well as the gameplay. Like, the levels just flow really well and have good design. Just hearing this news, it just makes me happy and excited for the future.
Oh yeah.
And now we actually had a pretty short news week. Obviously, E3 coming up. There's not going to be too many announcements yet. We're now going to head into our last news stories here, which are Nintendo related, because here at Level With Me podcast, we love Nintendo so much that we leave all the news stories for the end. It's like our dessert. First off here, this is a weird one. Nintendo pulls Switch firm hardware update. Nintendo released a new update for the Switch and pulled it down shortly after with zero explanation as to why. The news comes by way of Video Games Chronicle, which originally reported on the new 12.0.3 Switch update and everything it entails. According to VGC, which sourced Oatmeal Dome on Twitter, the 12.0.3 update, quote, fixes error code 2123-1502 when accessing the eShop, unquote, which is an error users have commonly run into as of late.
I was going to say, yes, that one. I remember that also well, all 10 of those numbers.
More specifically, the update made changes to the OS kernel and key services, the SSL, which helps with creating secure connections to servers, and the Switch's list of banned words, as noted by Oatmeal Dome. All in all, it was a relatively minor update. However, VGC reports that the update was pulled today, and at the time of this writing, Nintendo has yet to offer any explanation as to why. Oatmeal Dome said on Twitter earlier today that, quote, this is the first time that such a thing has happened on the Switch. Very odd. I can't really say, in my opinion, why they might have done such a thing. It could just be like a simple like bug in the update, maybe, that they just found right as they pushed it out. Who knows?
It could be. And if that'd be the case, I'm kind of happy that they caught something like that,
Who knows, though? Maybe there was something in there where people could dig and find like E3 news, because I'm sure Nintendo is going to have like all sorts of news articles about like their announcements on like the Switch news thing. Does anyone look at that thing, the Switch news section?
You mean like on the Switch, like the news thing, or
the red? Yep, the red circle.
To be honest, whenever I boot up my Switch, I noticed that. I mean, I think like the Wii had it, the Wii U had it. I just don't really like bother to look at it. Sometimes it will just pop up and there might be like a few pictures, like, oh, here's some games coming out, and that's like, oh, that's all I really need to know. So typically for my Nintendo news, I don't really go on the Switch to look for it. I kind of just boot the Switch up and go play a game. So typically, it's actually here on Level With Me where I get most of my Nintendo news.
Yeah, it's interesting. They'll put like the announcements on there. Like someone will write up the little articles. Sometimes they do like little updates on games or like features about like new games coming out, or like they'll spotlight like, oh, here's some like cool indie games that are like, they're like sports themed, or they're like action adventure, or like a Zelda like. It's kind of neat, but yeah, like you said, I really don't use that thing either. It's kind of interesting that exists. It's something very Nintendo, I guess, with looking at things like Miiverse, and even the Wii had like all those weird like channels, like the weather and stuff like that.
Yeah. Hey, I knew every single day whether it was going to rain or not because of the Wii. So thank you, Nintendo Wii.
And here's the thing, like, it's such like a weird, like, quirky thing related to Nintendo that like I want them to keep doing this. Like, God bless. Like, I don't really ever use this kind of stuff. I mostly use Miiverse just for the lols, because those like memes that people would draw on there were just hilarious. Yeah. Or when you'd be playing Splatoon and it's like my parents are fighting, in the background, or some of the garbage that people wrote in there just makes me laugh for hours. I digress, though. Speaking of Nintendo history, just like Miiverse, official Nintendo Gallery Museum to open in Japan by March 2024. Nintendo has announced that it will be opening a Nintendo Gallery Museum in Japan by March 2024 that will give the company a way to showcase its product development history and the philosophy to the public. Nintendo President Shunataro Furukawa shared the news in a press release, revealing that its Nintendo Yuji Ogura plant and the surrounding land will be used to create the tentatively named Nintendo Gallery. Inside, Nintendo's historical products will be featured alongside exhibits, experiences, and much more. The project is expected to be completed in Nintendo's 2023 fiscal year, which ends in March 2024. This is very exciting news. We really, I feel like Nintendo has always been very secretive around a lot of its products that they've been working on, as well as a lot of their, philosophy on game design and game making. I mean, only a year or two ago when there was that big hacker who got into Nintendo files, we just have found all these cool unused sprites dating all the way back to the NES and SNES days, which is really fascinating. So this is just really awesome, to actually go into not only an old Nintendo corporation building, but you can also see just different levels in Nintendo history, starting out with the toys and the trading cards, and then eventually working into the simple Pong machines, and then they get to the Famicom and the NES. It's cool.
Indeed. I wonder if that's where Egak used all of his ghost portraits too.
Oh man, there should definitely be a section like that where there are just portraits that move, or at least a themed cafe that's Egad's enjoyables. I don't know.
His edibles.
We're getting crunk at the Nintendo Gallery.
Oh, right.
Whoa, man. Is that a power mushroom? A 1-up? I got nothing right now. I'm sorry. Forgive me for not having any weed jokes, guys.
Yeah, we made all of our weed jokes on 420.
That's right. Happy 420. Go back and watch the 420 episode.
Yeah, do it, you loyal fans, you
guys. If you were really cool, you would definitely go listen to the 420 episode. Just saying, not trying to peer pressure. Just saying.
I'll peer pressure them.
Anywho, though, that is going to do it for this week's news. We're now going to transition to our second part of the podcast, where we talk about what we've been watching and playing over the past week. Mike, would you like to kick things off?
Sure, because unfortunately, all I do is work. And I don't have time for anything else. Yeah, gotta hate my life sometimes. Anyway, so once again, really busy week at work. I actually barely had enough time to make my last video for my own YouTube channel, The Collector's Vault.
I watched that. You had some cool cards.
Why, thank you. I thought they were pretty fun too. Got some of my favorite green dinosaur,
Yes, after he eats a big meal. That was me.
Yeah.
That was me today. I went out for breakfast and I got a big old breakfast burrito, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna just have some fun today, and I'm gonna order some pancakes with my meal. And these things come out, and they're the size of frisbees. And I did ask Megan before I ordered. I'm like, you'll help me eat these, right? And she's like, oh yeah, of course. And these pancakes were so good. The second they hit the table, we both went to try them. And then, in a matter of, a minute or two,
they're gone.
Both of them were gone. And we were just, so shocked. I was cracking up as I was starting to eat my burrito, already full. And I'm like, we ate those pancakes so fast. How did that happen? And she's like, I don't know. It literally was that didn't even happen. It's crazy.
Yeah, I can relate.
Pancakes are good. I love breakfast.
Yeah. And so do green dinosaurs. They love pancakes. Anywho, but yeah. So what I've been watching this week, I really didn't get a chance to watch anything new and crazy. I just kind of kept watching Castlevania. The show really it's kind of it's sunk its teeth into me. I'm I'm on season 3 right now, and I don't remember how far I got with last week's episode of discussing Castlevania.
I think you said you were in season 2 somewhere.
Okay. Well, I don't want to spoil too much of the show, but so at the end of season 2, I was actually shocked that they accomplished a lot in the show. They got to the point where they're again like I think at this point I just have to kind of explain it. So, spoiler warning for anybody who doesn't want to hear this. But at the end of season 2, like Trevor, I think I mentioned our heroes are Trevor Belmont, not Simon Belmont. It's his grandfather, I think. Sypha and Alucard. There are 3 heroes, and at the end of season 2, they actually do make it to Dracula's castle, and they defeat him. And it's pretty cool because like in this show, they really emphasize that like Dracula is not only like like he doesn't just have like his magical powers where he can like do all kind of crazy vampire stuff. He's also just like immensely strong, and I was actually reminded a lot of like Dragon Ball Z almost, where like he like as Trevor is apparently like he's a very strong individual. He's a really good fighter. He's a vampire hunter, and even he knew like, well, crap. If I'm going to fight Dracula, I need to give it all I got. And as he's trying to fight Dracula, like he's actually he's actually physically trying to fight him and punching him, and Dracula like barely flinches when he gets punched. Almost like as if like again like in Dragon Ball Z, it's like Trevor's simply not strong enough to punch Dracula. It was actually pretty cool. Like Dracula is just that much of like a juggernaut,
I mean, that's how he hires Death to be one of his minions.
Yeah. Spoiler warning, again, Death wasn't in the show, is not in the show so far. And I'm a little disappointed because Death is one of the more iconic characters that we see in the Castlevania games, And we saw a lot of like Castlevania villains in this, but we didn't see Death yet, so I'm a little shocked. I'm pretty sure at some point we're going to see Death.
He's too busy murdering Luigi.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I forgot about that. Or hanging out with Peter Griffin. I don't know if you saw that episode of Family Guy.
Voiced by the great
Norm Macdonald.
Norm Macdonald. Yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, so ultimately, all three of them had to fight Dracula, and I'm not gonna go into too much detail because I want you guys to watch the show and enjoy it. But they do defeat him, and I was kind of shocked because I'm thinking like, well, what do they do now? So season 3 is mainly that all of Dracula's forces are still wandering like all of Europe, like they're all like with these like shadow monsters, like werewolves. Just all these like horrible monsters that you see in the Castlevania games, they're just wandering all of Europe now with no one to control them. And so, while Alucard actually stays behind to guard the castle, because the castle is just sitting there now with no one to watch it. And so Alucard's now living in the castle. Technically, it was his home at one point, so he's just in there, like, trying to live out his life in peace in the castle and make sure no one else comes in there and, like, takes any of Dracula's like knowledge or anything, or in his libraries and labs and etc. etc. Sypha and Trevor are just going on their merry ways. They're kind of like a couple now, and they're just basically out there having fun killing monsters, kind of like vigilantes almost. And it's fun. It actually is really fun. And I guess here's the other thing is that in season 2 we learned that Dracula does have friends, like other. Like powerful, like I guess they were like the generals of his army, and they consisted of other vampires as well as these like human, like I guess they're like sorcerers. And I want to say the only one that I recognized was Carmilla. I think Carmilla is a Castlevania like recurring character, so she's like a female vampire, like general of Dracula. And now that Dracula is no longer in the picture, I think she's trying to like take command of any of the remaining vampire forces. And I guess I guess continue what Dracula wanted to do, where he just wants to take over the planet and kill all humans. So it's interesting. It really is, and it is just kind of cool knowing that there are like just like these like vampires aren't like, oh, there's only like 5 vampires in the world and one of them is Dracula. It's like, no, like vampires are like almost like a species, like just like how they just live amongst humans, and so yeah, it's. Technically, like there's still a war going on between the humans and the vampires, but I guess it's in like a standstill right now as the vampires are trying to like build up their forces. It's pretty interesting, and yeah, it's still very fun. So I highly recommend if anybody wants to watch a good show in general. Like you don't even have to know Castlevania, just watch it. It's pretty cool. And if you're a Castlevania fan, I think you'll love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, I do really want to check it out at some point.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Things.
And so then what I've been playing this week, sadly, I didn't get a chance to touch my consoles at all because I was dealing with all my car trouble.
That's fair. Yep.
But I'm so bummed because I'm still playing Ukulele, and I love that game. I just haven't had a chance to beat it. And the same goes. Well, I'm just still playing in general, but like Doom Eternal is the one game where I just have to play like one more level. I'm hoping that maybe this weekend I can play it and just beat that game finally. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying, oh, I'm finally going to beat the game. Like it's not like it's been like a chore. Like the game's great. I just want to beat it so I can move on to a new game. And I also just want to see what the ending's like because the game is just that fun. Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about that a lot. Now, one game I had to beat though as a chore was Cyberpunk. Ooh.
I will say this though. I stopped by a GameStop while I was actually like while my car was getting its tires changed. I actually went up to my old hometown because that's where the Sam's Club was, and it's in the Franklin Mills Mall. And so I was walking the mall as I was waiting for my tires to get done. I stopped by the GameStop in the mall, and I realized like, oh look, they have a nice little like section of Nintendo games, like Switch games and stuff.
Yep. And
they had some games at discounted prices, and one of them was The Outer Worlds. And I realized, like, man, I really want to play this game. I really do. So, I don't know. Maybe next time I'll try to pick it up. I think they were asking only $30 for the game. And they said it was new.
That's not bad at all.
That's not bad at all, yeah. It was that game, and I think they also had... it was for $60, so I'm like, I don't know if I want to pay this. But it was Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero on the Switch as like a little like one package thing. And I'm like, man, that's great. The two games for $60 sounds good, but as amazing as Subnautica is, it's like I already paid for these games on the computer, so it's like I don't want to spend $60 just to play it on the Switch. Even though I think it would be fun to play it on the Switch, I don't know.
Those games honestly did just come out, so that's probably why they're still $60. Like literally, like a week or two ago, they just came out on Switch.
Yeah, I guess my thing was I was hoping it would be like $20 a piece. Like that to me sounds more reasonable. I'm not saying the games aren't good, so they don't deserve like a $30 price tag each. I just felt personally, if that was like a $40 game, I think it would be easier for me to swallow.
That's fair. I understand
that. But yeah, that's been my week again. Sorry, not very eventful. How about you, Corey? What have you been watching and playing?
All right, Mike. As in terms of what I've been watching over this past week, I got to talk to you a little bit about this, but I did wrap up Invincible, and it ended incredibly well. We'll go a little bit into spoiler talk here for maybe the next 5 minutes, so just bear with us. It might be longer than 5 minutes because, we're going to talk about the ending a little bit.
Oh, of course.
But yeah, like the last two episodes, they're really great. There was like this great moment where like I believe it starts happening in like episode 7 where like, or actually I think it's the end episode 6 where like Debbie is like confronting Nolan where she's like, oh, I know that you like killed the Guardians of the Globe or whatever, and they start like falling apart, and then it leads into this great conclusion, and like it's such like there's like so many moving parts going on by the end of it that I feel like that's what really like draws you in. Like there's this stuff going on with Robot and the two clone guys. I actually forgot their names. What were the names of those guys?
I don't think they have names, but I think they're called the Mauler twins.
Okay.
I want to say, yeah.
Yeah, but there's like that stuff where like Robot wanted to like replicate his self or like actually transfer
into a new body.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was kind of interesting. And then there's like obviously the stuff going on with Adam Eve, where she's kind of like, well, I don't really want to just be like a part of any organization. Like I kind of just want to be a hero, like by myself and like do my own thing. And then obviously there's everything going on with Nolan, and there's even like different stuff going on with oh gosh, I'm blanking. Mark, yeah. I was almost gonna say Mike. I'm like, wait, that's your name. But yeah.
Like, oh no, you found out my secret identity. I have to kill you now, Corey.
And yeah, like just like all these different like cool moving pieces are keeping you interested. Not to mention like all the just like superhero stuff going on. But that last episode when like, you know, just like Nolan and Mark are having their 1-to-1, and like Mark is putting all the pieces together, figuring out like what actually happened. And there's like the great like scenes where like, I mean, they're not actually great. Like it's horrible what's happening, but like Nolan is pretty much trying to like explain to Mark like that the humans are all like insignificant. Like who cares about them? And he's just like, he like punches Mark at one point and goes through like downtown Chicago and just like causes this like horrific scene where like the middle of downtown, like this road just gets annihilated. All these cars get destroyed, probably, you know, landing on people, causing massive injuries. And like Mark actually gets like shot through a building and causes like the building to start crumbling and falling down. And like he tries to save it, but he's not like quite strong enough yet. And like this whole building like topples down. Like all these people are in this building. Like Mark's trying to save like this mom and her like daughter. And like actually like after the rubble like falls, like of course he's okay, he's invincible, but he like comes out holding the arm, and it's almost like that scene from Jurassic Park where the hand comes out, but it's just like the rest of the arm, you know, like she's gone obviously. And then there's even the moment after that where Nolan's holding Mark on the subway.
Oh God, what a crazy scene! Oh my God,
I know, like just wrapping through my brain like what's going on in Mark's perspective, because he's literally just like tearing through these people and the subway itself. Like, yeah, it's just a grim, a brutal scene happening. And again, just, I mean, if you guys want to follow a little bit what's going on, what basically ends up happening is Nolan or Omni-Man kind of explains what's going on, like why he did kill the Guardians of the Globe. And the basic gist of it was that his race, which I also forget their name. What are the not Kryptonians?
Oh, I don't know. They're the Fliptonians, I guess.
Sure, whatever. But his like race of people, which are supposed to be like Kryptonians,
yeah,
they all basically fight to actually figure out who are the strongest on their planet. So like, you know, in his past life, he had to like, I guess, beat his way to the top. And then, like, they kind of went from there and were like, okay, well, now we have, like, the strongest members of society. So we're going to build up here. And then we're also going to go conquer the world and try to find the rest of the strongest people or beings or whatever. And if not, then they're just going to go down. And,
Nolan, they're just they're just like galactic conquerors now. They're just invading other planets and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Nolan gets to Earth. And he, you know, meets Debbie, and I guess there's probably some more backstory there, but he falls in love, and then pops out Mark. And Nolan essentially wanted Mark to join him because he has that, again, whatever the race of those beings are, but he's
half human, half Superman, whatever he is.
Yeah,
you know?
like he's a super being, and he's like, you can join me, Mark. Like, we can conquer Earth and then move on to our next planet. And Omni-Man the whole time is pretty much trying to explain to Mark like that humans are like insignificant, and at one point he even is like, the whole time they're being filled by drones by oh god, I'm blanking on all these names. What's the director's name?
Cecil.
I think it's Cecil. Yep. Yeah. They're like all watching him, and Debbie's with Cecil, and she's like hearing all of Nolan talk his like garbage, and he was saying how like, oh, Debbie's insignificant to me. She's almost like a pet in my perspective.
That was nuts.
Yeah. Just horrible things. And then, like I said, Omni-Man and Mark pretty much have this crazy battle. But, of course, Mark has only got his powers, like, I mean, I don't really know if they talk about the time, but let's say like a week or a month. It hasn't been very long. And, like, Nolan is just destroying him. And that's where you get that great meme that went around. I mean, it's still around, but there are more memes. It's a little ancient in terms of the internet's like blink of an eye at this point. But But then you get this wonderful scene that literally brought a tear to my eye. And I was even telling you, Mike, the other day, like just reminiscing about it, it almost brought another tear to my eye, where it kind of like flashes back to this moment. And I feel like the word, like me explaining it isn't going to do it. Like you got to watch it and, watch the whole series to actually get the emotional like consequences of this. But it's like, I'm not even going to really go into detail. I'm going to say you do the homework. I want you to go watch the show, even though you're listening to the spoiler chat at this point. But you need to understand like how like Debbie kind of like they're watching like a baseball game and Nolan is kind of like not into it, and Debbie like explains to him like the beauty of life.
Like that's your son out there. You should be happy for him. Like and it's funny because if you don't mind me chiming in here. I like it because the more I think about it, it perfectly encapsulates how Nolan truly feels. Like he's like, it's baseball. This is pointless, Because in the back of his mind, he's like, why am I here? All these ants, Because to him, all humans are ants. Like he's like, oh, this is all pointless. All these people are gonna die. That whole mentality he has. And I do like how Debbie, like you said, was trying to tell me, yeah, but look at Mark. Look at your son out there. Look, he's gonna do good in this baseball game, and. Like, you see, like, his face change, as he watches Mark get like, a home run or something like that. And he's, like, cheering him on. And, yeah, it is a very touching scene. Because it's, like, in those moments, like, no one does realize, like, wow, like, there's so much to love about humanity,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
at least in that little moment, like, that's kind of what you're seeing. That like, there's part of Nolan that doesn't completely think that all the humans are just pointless. Like he does feel that, like he does feel that way, but then he's like, but his son's half human, Like I don't know. It is a very good scene. Yeah, I agree. You guys have to watch that scene to get the full effect,
right?
So that way it tugs on your feels.
and I, honestly, at this point, like Nolan probably only had to like punch Mark maybe one more time. Like he's almost dead. He's borderline like dead. But Nolan just shoots off, and like the helicopters come to pick up Mark. I mean, I'm not going to break down the whole ending, but they leave a lot of doors open. There's a lot of like heroes and villains that have more stories to tell. Obviously, this is based off a comic series. I don't know how long the actual comic series was, but there's a lot more going on here. They left the door open. I don't know if they confirmed a season 2, but I'm sure it will come because Invincible.
I think they did.
Well, I mean.
Well. Yeah, well, season 1 was very open-ended, and I think they did confirm there is a season 2 in the works, but we're probably not going to see it until next year, which kind of stinks.
Right. Also, just short little thing, but I never even realized that alien hero, like the Cyclops guy, he was voiced by Seth Rogen until the very end. I was like, oh yeah, that is Seth Rogen.
Oh yeah, that's son of a gun.
All right, the spoiler talk is over for Invincible. It was a great show. Go watch it. Fantastic series. Next up, as I mentioned earlier, I don't really have much to say about this, but I've been continuing watching the Bert the Conqueror show. It's hilarious. I love watching it so much. It gets really good by season 3, or at least I enjoy the season 3, which is also the final season. The original one like does feel way more like a TV show, where by the end of season 3, it feels more like just little vlogs of like following Bert and his like film crew, which I actually prefer more because, again, I know Bert from like watching his like stand up and listening to him on podcasts. So like it feels more like that's like who he is, and it makes sense because through the periods of time like he's developing his character and growing and whatnot. So I liked it. It's good. I'll continue to watch this and probably binge through it soon. It's just my good like garbage food TV show to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But not garbage and significant content to talk about. I actually watched Raya and the Last Dragon.
Oh, cool.
So now this is free if you own Disney Plus. The price wall has left.
Oh, thank goodness, because I didn't know about that. I didn't want to pay to watch that movie.
No, it's absolutely fine.
I'm a cheapskate.
I understand. But yes, I did watch this, and I actually thought it was quite a good film. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, but I will, give a spoiler-free review of the movie. So this is made by Disney Animation Studios. It gets a little dicey now with Pixar and Disney Animation because obviously they look very similar. But Disney Animation made things like Moana, Tangled. I believe they even did Wreck-It Ralph. I thought Pixar did Wreck-It Ralph, but no, I think
No, I think that was just the Disney Studios.
right. Yeah. But I would compare this movie to like Moana, where this is Disney's new like princess movies, but instead of like the princess movies back in the day where they were very like I don't even know if
damsel in distress.
Yeah, I was gonna say sissy, but I don't know if that's an okay word to say. But yeah, they were very much like
you can't say the S word, Corey.
they were not like they were always there, like you said, yeah, to be like rescued by this big, strong, powerful knight. Well, now like with Moana and with Raya, the Last Dragon, they're trying to make like these female characters more of these independent hero characters, which I actually like. I'm not like trying to critique that and say like, oh, why'd they change my thing? It's stupid.
I think they're great as I hate the word heroine.
Yeah,
because it sounds like heroin,
the drug, right?
But no, I agree. Like ever since like Moana, Frozen.
Yep, that's a good one.
I think it's great that they have these strong. Like I'm gonna say this right now. And I'm not just saying that to be like. To be one of those guys. Like, I love strong female characters because they were not really a thing for a long time. Like, they were, few and far between. So now that Disney is, like, really, well, I think they might overdo it a little bit, but I think it's great to have strong female characters. They're fun to watch, because they're not just a damsel in distress.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah. Can they overdo it? Of course they can. But for right now, it's like I'm cool with it, and I'm looking forward to watching Raya and the Last Dragon. Maybe I'll talk about it next week. Who knows?
So something that I did know about this movie, but there is like a time cut. So there's like I'd say like the first like half hour of the movie is like Raya as like a younger child, and then the other like hour and a half is like Raya as like a I guess adult. I mean, she's probably like 18, 19, somewhere around that age in the older parts of the movie. And I mean, if you look at like a poster, like that's mainly what she looks like most of the time. This movie actually has like a lot going on, which I like. And like they kind of start you off at a point where there's like they're explaining a lot about the world. So essentially what's going on here is there's this like magical world where like all these kingdoms like live together. And they kind of have like this big like lake in the middle that's shaped like the dragon, and then all the lands together, like you can kind of like walk to land, and like these dragons like brought like just everything that's good to the world. Like they brought magic, they brought like the water, they brought the wind and the different elements and stuff like that. But then there are also these like shadowy monster figures, and I need to actually look here. I do have the Wikipedia up if they bring up the name, but basically these like shadowy monster figures are almost like everything that's wrong with like humans in the world. Like it's like fear, it's like doubt, it's like untrustworthiness, and they basically like the only way to stop them is with like water or like if you have like the dragon magic. But what happened and what also these things do that are bad is basically if they like eat a human or a dragon, they'll turn them to stone forever. So there's almost like this little like battle between the dragons and the humans and the shadows. And like the dragons were able to take down the shadow creatures, but like doing so caused all the dragons to pretty much vanish. Like they used like their last bit of magic to protect all the humans and make sure that, these shadow creatures aren't going to continue to turn them to stone or kill them, whatever. But eventually, because humans are humans, they all wanted to fight over this, like, basically the Last Dragon made a crystal to protect all the humans. And the humans are like, well, we want to have control of this crystal because we need the power because, I don't know.
Because we're humans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that caused all these nations to divide, and they're all named after, like, the different part of the dragon that they're located in. So one's like Fang, one's like spine, one's like heart, one's like tail, which is actually done really well.
One's big toe.
There's only like 5, but yeah, sure, big toes in there. And it has like a lot of division with that because like all the different countries are kind of like their own, or these different pieces of the land are kind of their own thing, and they're all like divided. Like they have different wars, but they also like work together. It's almost like the different nations of the world. And in the like beginning scene, like the Heart Nation wants to try to like bring everyone together, and they actually invite all the different nations to their land, and they're basically going to have like a little like meal together, so they can kind of almost have like a peace and be like, hey, we need to work together so we can just, you know, continue to survive here, so these like shadow creatures don't come back. And I mean, again, this is a minor spoiler, but it's like the first half of the movie. Raya gets like tricked by one of the other Fang characters, and they end up stealing the gem, and then they actually break it, and then like all the different nations like take little halves and bits of the broken gem, and because the gem is broken, that causes all the shadow creatures to return, and that basically sends the world into what was essentially almost like peace or like normal, but like just with humans, and now it's like almost like a hellscape or like a post-apocalypse type of thing where like there's just a bunch of people who are like turned to stone from these shadow creatures. They can only come out during the night, but they still like, again, they'll, if they get you, you're pretty much turned to stone. You're dead essentially. And then it fast forwards to an older Raya, and then she kind of has her journey, which I won't really go into, but that's kind of what the time gap is about. But I don't want to go on too long about this movie, but one, I want to just say that, of course, it's Disney, so the animations looked quite well. I was really impressed by the lighting with this movie a lot. Like, a lot of the scenes, I kept going, like, how are they making this lighting work in, like, a 3D animated, like, engine? Like, it was really impressive to me. As well as, of course, like, the different face animation and, like, gestures they did, as well as, like, the hair and stuff. Like, everything is looking incredible. Like, Disney is running on all cylinders, so to say. I did enjoy all the different characters. There's actually quite a few different characters, because in like the second half of the movie, when Raya is going basically to nation, in each of the different like lands, she ends up meeting like a new character who kind of like comes with her. And I actually really enjoyed that like method of introducing like new characters. And it's a very diverse cast. Like, it's not like who you would expect typically. Also, I want to shout out, Raya has a little pet, which is named Tuk Tuk. And in this world, they basically, all the animals are almost like Pokemon, where they're like combinations of different things. Tuk Tuk is like a guinea pig combined with like an armadillo. He's so adorable. He's one of my favorite Disney like adorable creatures they put in their movies. I love him. And when
reminds of Appa. Yep.
Yeah, and when Tuk Tuk begins, he's like small, like he fits in your hand like a coconut. But then the time skip, Tuk Tuk's big, and Raya like rides him like a horse. It's really cool. But other than that, again, I really enjoyed the story here. Definitely a big theming of unity and coming together to work, which I think the world needs more stories like that. I think we do need to come together and realize that, hey, we're all humans. We're all trying to live on this rock and survive together.
Nah, we're fine.
Yeah, everything's working out just fine the way it is. Let's just keep doing this for another 30, 50 years. But Raya and the Last Dragon, it was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. I recommend it now that it's free on Disney Plus. It's 2 hours, which was a little longer than I expected for a Disney animated film, but it is worth it. I think it does end really well. It has some like interesting twists. I thought the action with Raya, like there's a lot of like combat scenes, are pretty cool. Raya, actually, her sword is almost like Ivy's sword from Soul Calibur, where it kind of like extends and then will retract. It's almost like a whip too. It's pretty cool.
Ooh,
yeah,
that's interesting.
And I do got to point this out. They made the dragon, which is named Sisu, in the movie. This character makes me scratch my head. Like, I'm like, why is this dragon like kind of sexy? What is Disney trying to plant in the minds of our youth here? The dragon has like eyeliner and eyeshadow. It's gonna be someone's sexual awakening. That's all I'm saying. It's not mine. I'm not saying that.
Maybe for like the guys who played Star Fox Adventures and thought Crystal was sexy.
I see this dragon, and there are many times where I'm like, this dragon could be part of MLP. That's all I'm saying.
Corey. Just Corey. Corey, no.
I'm sorry, and now I planted this thought in all your heads. I hope you enjoy Raya and the Last Dragon, Mike. Tell me that dragon is not
I can't
sexy.
watch it because I'm going to start like, I can't watch it with Amanda. She's like, why are you looking at that dragon, Mike? I can't help it.
You're going to have to leave the room the second the dragon comes on the screen. Like, I'll be back in like 5 minutes, Amanda. Sorry.
You give me too much credit, Corey. Come on. I'm not that good.
Oh, man.
All right, we're getting banned now. Thanks a lot, Corey.
Raya and the Last Dragon. Go check it out. Search it on DeviantArt. Search it on Rule 34. Where?
Oh, my God.
Level With Me podcast does not condone.
You know right now, if you go on DeviantArt, there's probably all kind of bad things
You
on
don't
there
even have to search on DeviantArt. The second you go on the website, it's probably one of the featured images.
I'm looking it up right now. I have to look it up right now. DeviantArt. Here we go. Oh, God.
And there's like a...
All right, so it's not on the front page at least.
Okay.
Let me just type in the letter R on the search thing. R? All right, nothing. It's even Raya. Oh, wait, no. Technically, Raya is the name of the girl, not the dragon.
Raya, yeah.
What's the name of the dragon again?
Sisu. Sisu. S-I-S-U.
All right, here we go. Let's see what we got. Actually... I'll be honest.
Cool art.
I'll be honest. It's very cool art, and a lot of it's pretty tame. So no Rule 34 yet, but I'm sure if I keep scrolling, I'll find something. So, oh yep, I found some.
How many scrolls? How many scrolls? Three,
of my
four?
finger, like 3 scrolls, and I found something. So I'm leaving right now before the guys in the white suits come to my door. There we go. I'm done.
Check out Raya and the Bad Dragon. Okay. Speaking of bad dragons, I did play some video games. I know this podcast is about gaming. I continued to play Monster Hunter Rise and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I just wanted to lump these together because I don't really have much to say about them. I enjoy playing these games, but I can't really talk about anything new necessarily. I will say Monster Hunter Rise has become like my new, just like, if I ever have to take my Switch somewhere, you bet your ass that's what I'm playing right away. Because
Nice.
like I was saying about all my car troubles, I had to wait like an hour or hour and a half while they were changing my tires, and I'm like, oh, that's perfectly fine. I'm just gonna bring my Switch and I'll play Monster Hunter Rise the whole time, which I did.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
just to pass the time.
And that game is like continuing to get updates, and I believe they're gonna talk about it in that Capcom presentation. I don't know if they mentioned that, but Capcom is gonna have a presentation at E3. They're just gonna continue to like pump out content for that game. So like, at the pace that I'm playing, that game could just be my infinite like Switch portable game at this point. I mean, it kind of is already. You know, you got to grind, and I didn't even beat like the main quest, so I didn't get to like the next tier of hunter missions that you get like the end game content. It's still a lot of fun though. Like I'll just hop in, and usually I play like 1 or 2 missions because they still can take a decent amount of time. And usually when I get on that map, I'm like, okay, I know I'm supposed to be hunting the Rathalos, but I also want to go hunt these other monsters because they do give you the option to. And of course, you want to hunt them to get the different materials to, you know, upgrade your weapon or build different weapons or build armor. Or maybe you want to get armor for your Palico or your Palamut. It's a great game. Same with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Great game. I actually was watching over the weekend, they actually are starting to do like Smash tournaments again, like in real life, which I'm getting excited for. And I was watching a big major tournament down in Florida, and that was really fun. It's like such a different vibe watching like the Smash tournaments in real life, seeing the players like in the face cams, as well as when you play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate locally compared to online, there's less input delay, even with the best internet connection. So players generally can do like way crazier combos, and you'll see like interesting characters like doing some crazy stuff where you're like, whoa, I didn't know Diddy Kong could do that.
Yeah.
So
I approve.
That's why I enjoy seeing these like in real life Smash tournaments come back, which I'm seeing them pop up left and right. I need to get vaccinated and actually go play some of these. Continuing with what I've been playing, I also have been playing more Fortnite. I finally reached level 100 on the Battle Pass.
Oh, man.
Which was great, and I didn't even know this, but apparently it does keep going. Although, I didn't really care for this, so when you hit level 100, that means you like unlocked all the different cosmetics. Then, as it kept going, you get different, like, what I'd put, like, skins for the different cosmetics. But they weren't skins that I necessarily even wanted. It's basically like you took this like cool designed skin with different pieces of armor and clothing and colors, and then they just make it all like chrome. It's like the episode of SpongeBob where they just make everything chrome. And
Why is everything chrome?
the characters just all silver or all gold, and I think that's ugly in my opinion. I had no interest in unlocking those skins. I'm like, I would rather have the character have the cool like armor that they have and see that. I don't need it to be all chrome. It just looks silly to me. So once I hit 100, I played a little bit more, but I'm considering taking a break from Fortnite because I have been playing that for quite a while. And I mean, I've actually been getting into another game, which I'm going to talk about in a second here. But I will say that they did also just release the new season to Fortnite where it's all like themed about like aliens and alien invasion stuff. There's like a lot of cool like sci-fi weapons that they added to the game. They had of course, there's a new battle pass, and there's all sorts of like fun skins in there. They have a Superman that they added because they haven't had Superman yet. They put in Rick from Rick and Morty. That's such a weird one. Yeah. And it's fun because they have like Morty as like the hammer. That's like the pickaxe. I thought that was clever.
I don't know, Rick.
And then there's even like this weird like rabbit character who's like, I don't know if he's an artist or like a social media, like almost like a VTuber type thing. I think his name was like Googimon or something like that, like Guggimon. It's just a weird thing. There's a lot of weird like crossovers in Fortnite that I'm too old to understand. But what I have been spending more of my time in, and this is more my school, my level, is I've been getting back into Call of Duty Warzone as well as Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. So I started playing Warzone. It was during, my pandemic or my quarantine issue. And again, because I was getting a little bored of Fortnite and I was watching some streamers play Warzone. And I'm like, I really would like to get back into this because I do love first-person shooters, especially Call of Duty. And I'm like, Warzone's fun. I can still play solos in a Battle Royale experience. And I know that they changed the Warzone map like a month or two ago. And I was like, I should get in there and try it out and see what's up. And I've been really enjoying that. I've been playing a lot of Warzone. It has been so much fun to me. They keep adding like new weapons into Call of Duty. So there's like a new meta going on there. And of course, they'll like tweak the different guns. So like, oh, this time the MAC-10 isn't that strong, or now the AK-47 is like the best weapon, so everyone uses that. Or you can kind of like play around the game. And there are also like a bunch of different guns that are also good. So you can kind of you get like you level up your guns and you get like all the different attachments on them. And something that they do that's kind of interesting but a little bit overwhelming to me is in Warzone now they integrated both the Modern Warfare stuff from Call of Duty Modern Warfare, the 2019 game, and Black Ops Cold War. So there are both the weapons in the pool because you can get a custom class in Warzone. So like I have to try to wrap my brain around like what's like the best gun I should be using in my custom loadout. Should I be using a weapon from Modern Warfare, or should I be using a gun from Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War? In theory, the Modern Warfare ones would be better because they're technically, newer and better. But it's just an interesting thing. I just do love that general like gameplay loop of Warzone. I would say Warzone is definitely more fast-paced, not having the building aspect. The shooting, of course, feels incredible. Going back to it, I've had some great games in Warzone. I haven't got a win yet, but I've been getting like third place. Like, I've been like topping at some point. And the map, they didn't really change as much as I thought. Just like a few of the locations are different, but it's just like the same map for Dusk, but it's set in the past now, fitting the Cold War themed era, which is cool. And the reason I ended up going back to just Black Ops Cold War is because you can actually like unlock, or Call of Duty Warzone uses the same like leveling of the guns in Cold War and Modern Warfare. So if you just play like the traditional Call of Duty multiplayer with like the little maps and the kill streaks and stuff like that, that will actually unlock you attachments and like different, skins and stuff like that for guns that you can use in Warzone. So I've been actually trying to play more Black Ops Cold War and unlock some of the better meta weapons to use in Warzone. So right now I've been playing a lot of the traditional Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, and I've been having a lot of fun with that. Although I have been starting to play a decent amount of matches that it seems like skill-based matchmaking is still in there. So The lobbies are starting to get way more like sweatier and try hard people who like camp or do like very cheap like strategies to just win. So that gets a little bit frustrating, but I feel like it's very much Call of Duty multiplayer, or regular multiplayer is like a flip of the coin. You'll sometimes be on a team where you just dominate and everyone on the enemy team just leaves right away, or you'll be on the opposite end of that where you'll just be getting dominated. And I feel like that's just how it normally goes with those type of games. I've honestly been having fun with it. Like, I haven't had too many games where I've been getting dominated. Usually, if that starts to happen, that's when I start to fall off. But if that would even be the case, I could play Warzone because that's kind of a different thing of itself, and I've been having a lot of fun with that. And just to wrap all this up, I also did buy some shiny cardboard, like we mentioned a little bit up front.
Oh, boy.
So I bought 10... This is just real brief. I bought 10 packs of Yu-Gi-Oh! Lightning Overdrive. That's the set, right?
Yeah.
And then
and
then I bought 2 of those like bundle packs that you can get at like Walmart or like drugstores, where it's like a bunch of cards thrown in there, and it's like 1 holo card or 1 rare guaranteed.
They're always interesting to check out.
I literally just bought them because I was curious. They're definitely not worth it. Like, I don't recommend people buying those, but I thought it'd be fun.
May I ask what you got in those things?
Yeah, just a bunch of bulk, and my rares were literally just rare cards. Like, they weren't even holo cards, so nothing too crazy. The rare or the common cards, though, are the most interesting things because they're just from all different sets.
Random sets, yeah.
And I even had some common cards in there that were from, like, structured deck, like the structured deck that was, like, the Flame King or whatever that Flame structure deck was from back in the day. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, the old school one. Yeah.
And I was like, where the heck did they find these cards? But yeah, and then I also bought one of those for like Pokemon cards. Now that did come with a holo card, but that was just like the starter like ice cream Pokemon was my holo card, like just a basic Pokemon.
Yes, everyone's favorite ice cream Pokemon.
Also, I'm just gonna say this, like immediately after I bought the Pokemon cards, and this is just because I'm not collecting them, but I was like, why did I even buy these? Like, I just wanted to really start collecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards again, and I think it was just my stupid human brain knowing that these things, like Pokemon cards, are skyrocketing, and you really can't find the cards anywhere in stores, that I just was instinctively like, I don't care that this is probably not worth it. I'm just going to buy this. And immediately after I bought it, again, I was just like, why did I even buy these? I don't know. I guess I was just curious.
They're fun. Like right now, if you can even find Pokemon cards, that's pretty like, you know, it's hard to do because typically people go there like, you know, the Target not so much, but Walmart nowadays still has some stuff, and like the Barnes and Nobles stores of the world, like people go there like 8 a.m. and just buy the entire shelf and then walk out, you know. So it's pretty tough sometimes. So it's fun to buy a pack or 2 every now and again.
I get that. You're totally right. But with that being said, that's going to do it for my week. And now we're going to move on to our final segment where we want your answers for our weekly question from the Instagram. Take it away, Mike.
So this is a fun question I thought of recently because I saw a funny like video on YouTube about this. Like if Peach and Mario had a son, it was pretty funny. It was just Mario with like Peach's hair, so it was kind of funny looking. So I thought, well, what do you guys think? What would be what would be the name of Mario and Peach's son if they were to ever have a child? And again, you guys can answer whatever you want, but I just listed 4 ideas, and we did have 6 people respond to the survey. One of which was Mr. Gamebro Corey. Let's see, Corey. So between we had 4 suggestions. The first one was Mario Jr. Second option was Silvio. Third option was Pario. And the final one was Archimedes.
Is Silvio or what was the second one? Is that a reference to something I'm not getting?
Yeah. Silvio was one of the characters from the Sopranos.
Okay, cool.
And we did have Mr. Gamebro Corey. You were the only one who answered Pario, which I thought was, you know, Peach and Mario's Pario.
I thought that was silly.
It's funny though. So we had one answer for Silvio, and that was from Mr. Causeway Ben. So thank you, sir, for contributing. We did have one person answer Archimedes, and that was Mr. Death One Collector. So thank you very much for answering the survey. And the other three answers were all for Mario Jr. So they went for the probably
Classic.
the more safe answer. And those were Day Back In, Mr. Owen Reese, and the GameCube Pod. So thank you guys for contributing to the survey, the weekly question, if you will. And yeah, the winner was Mario Jr. I personally would have named him Pario.
I was shocked that there was no Richard Nixon joke.
Yeah, I thought it was a little predictable because I've been doing that. So I'll save a good Richard Nixon joke answer for next time.
I don't know if you were referencing this, but whenever I hear Archimedes, I think this is a very obscure reference. There's a owl character in
From the Sword in the Stone.
That's correct.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was
Archimedes. He's like this cranky owl. I love him.
Yeah. I think Archimedes is also the name of like one of the great like physicians or physicists in like history or whatever. And I think that's who Archimedes the owl is named after. But technically, when I said Archimedes, that was exactly the person I was referencing. So I'm so glad you picked up on that.
Good. If you guys don't know who Archimedes is, right after you're done watching Raya and the Last Dragon on Disney Plus, go search Sword of the Stone and watch that. I might actually do that. I haven't seen that movie in a few years.
Yeah. It's a classic movie. I mean, I'm a big fan of, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, which basically is what that is,
Right. And you got the great Merlin, Hickatus, Pickatus, Pickatus, Spock, and he makes all the things tiny and big, that's fun.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank you, Causeway Ben, the GameCube Pod, Day Back In, Owen Reese, and Death One Collector. Go check them out on the gram. Give them a follow. That's the reason we do this. If you guys want to be featured on the podcast and get some more followers, please hit up our question of the week. All you got to do is hit a button. It's really easy, honestly.
Yeah.
And we get hundreds of thousands of listeners every week. Think about how many followers you could get from this. And guys, we recommend our listeners to go follow them because they probably have some interesting content to talk about themselves.
Absolutely.
And that is going to do it for the Level With Me podcast. As I mentioned about these questions, if you want to go check them out, they're on our Instagram, Level With Me podcast, every Tuesday evening or during the afternoon. We'll usually post afternoon.
During the morning.
More or less.
I'll say
afternoon. We'll post them up, as well as you always get updates for when the podcast goes live, when new episodes of our Let's Plays go live on the YouTube channel. Speaking of which, we're adding constantly every day new episodes of our Let's Plays to the Let's Play channel, including No More Heroes, AM2R, and then we have, of course, plentiful content on there. We have Luigi's Mansion 3, we have Metroid Zero Mission, we got Super Mario World. There's tons of videos on there, as well as all the podcast archives from the previous episodes. I'm just saying the same things over and over and over, which is funny. That reminds me, Megan had to do a paper for one of her classes, and it was one of those things where it's okay, it's got to be 500 words, and she literally would drag out all the sentences, and it was so hilarious to me. And they did grade it good. I think she got an 18 out of 20. I was well done.
For adding all those fluff words and everything.
Exactly, yeah. She had one line that just cracked me up. I was that who actually talks like that? You just wrote that to get the extra 6 or 7 words. It's hilarious. But I digress. Check out Level With Me on YouTube. Give us a sub and watch some of our vids. Check out Level With Me podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. It could be on Spotify. It could be on Apple Podcasts. It can be on Pandora, Podbean. We're all over the place. Give us a rating, give us a follow. We'd really appreciate that. Share the podcast. We want to grow this thing, get some more interactions and views and whatnot. We do it all for the people. And
indeed,
if you want to check me out, again, I'm GameBro Corey. I mainly do content over at twitch.tv/GameBro Corey, where I can stream. I've had a little lull on the streaming, mostly just because of this COVID scare. I honestly wasn't really feeling that well. But I do want to get back into it, streaming Warzone and Black Ops Cold War, as well as more Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. twitch.tv/GameBroCorey. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram to get updates on when I go live, as well as just funny and interesting posts here and there. You can also check me out over at Loudstone TV on twitch.tv. Me and Abra Gaming have started doing our Let's Play of Parappa the Rapper for the channel.
Oh,
and I believe it will be uploaded to YouTube at some point. But yes, that's going on there. And you can also find a lot of cool other like music-related content on Loudstone TV. They have like a lot of like local artists that they feature like their music videos, which a lot of them are really dope, as well as like other shows that are on the channel itself of other like content creators. It's really neat. So yeah, go check all that out. Loudstone TV at twitch.tv, GameBroCorey at twitch.tv, as well as GameBroCorey on Twitter and Instagram. What do you got, Mike?
well, yeah. If you guys want to find me, you'll find me at the McDonald's searching through the chicken McNuggets for some Among Us shaped chicken nuggets, so I can retire early at a young age. And if I'm not there, I'm over at YouTube at the Collector's Vault or on Instagram. If you guys like, like anything like retro old video games, collectible cardboard like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and all that fun stuff, sports memorabilia, I think you'll enjoy my channel. I love to talk about that kind of stuff and show off some cool stuff. Also make a couple jokes here and there. And yeah, we'll have all that stuff linked down below. And yeah, that's all I really have. I'm sorry I'm such a bore because I work too much.
It's all right. Eventually your work will slow down. Maybe you'll get enough spiders or whatever you make over there. That's it for
maybe if I'm lucky enough, maybe I'll get fired and I have all this free time to work on videos.
That's not a bad idea. I like that. Maybe I should get fired too. But with that being said, what? Go on.
Oh, I'm set. I was just coughing.
Okay. With that being said, this is going to do it for the Level With Me podcast. Thank you guys so much for... Oh, God, did you guys hear that? That was my car. I think that was my tires. See you guys next week. Dang it.
Oh, no. Those darn teenagers are slashing his tires again.